Hello and welcome again. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, and your love of life and your own becoming with me here at Light Your Life. I'm Tina Marie St.Cyr, and it's so good to be sharing time together again. Today, I invite us to sit together in the brilliance and the wisdom of a wonderful woman who has gone through her own journey, and she's written a book. I want you to take note. I'll mention it again at the end of the podcast as well. It's Reclamation, the evolution of a hot mess. And I thought that would be an amazing, nice title for a podcast today, because who here could raise their hand? We are all in the evolution of our own hot messes. And so here we are. Let me introduce Lona Cook, Dr. Lona Cook. She is a vitalistic chiropractor. She's been practicing for 12 years in Western Wisconsin, and we're going to dive into some of her journeys there as well. And she loves to share her wisdom here on natural healing, the world itself, and what is available for us on offer for our own evolution. So let's sit back and be amazed at Dr. Lona's wisdom. I know I saw her speak at a function in Colorado. It's called Mile High. And she came on stage in her vitality with no shoes on, barefooted. And I said, I love this woman already, because it's how I give my speeches. And by the way, right now I am barefooted. So, so here we go. Dr. Lona, thank you so much for being with us today on Light Your Life.
Oh, Tina, it's my pleasure. Thank you. That was such a, I don't know if I can live up to that. And I'm definitely still in the middle of my own journey, as you know, still a hot mess, just more revelations of hot messness already gone through. So.
I love it. I love that you embrace your hot messness. You know, sometimes we avoid it, like, don't look under the covers there, you know, like, no, I got it all together. But isn't it great when we can just embrace and go, no, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like the more you know you don't know, right? You hear that over and over, and you hear it because it's true.
It is. And, you know, I'll tell even my kids growing up, they'd ask me if I knew something or where something was. And very routinely, my answer was, no, I don't know. And they're like, but Ma, like, you're supposed to know these answers. And I'm like, no, I really don't know it. Let's find out together, but I don't know the answer. And that's where we are in life, right? The more we don't know, the more we're okay with the not knowing and comfortable with that uncertainty, then doesn't it create a container inside of ourselves where we can actually learn?
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the gifts in the last couple of years is, I mean, who could have ever predicted where 2020 would put us, you know? So this like white knuckling of needing control and needing to know what happens next, you know, none of us have that crystal ball. And so I think the gift in it has been that you almost from a survival place have to start to like let go of all the things you think you know. So that's been something for me anyways, that I've been like, okay, I guess it's just a wild ride right now.
It is. And so I love that, you know, you talk about our internal compasses, you know, that there's an internal state or an internal energy source that is guiding us. But, you know, I don't know about you. I was raised in this Western culture, and it seems as though we came out of the womb needing to know the answers and follow some kind of course of direction with rule sets and common cultural needs that had me, you know, automatically. I remember as a young girl thinking I was pretentious, like I'm pretending to know. And the truth is I don't know, but I had that internal conflict of, you know, how do I express the confusion I have going on? Could you help us in your own guidance of that?
Yeah. Oh, well, like you, same. You know, and definitely thinking I knew a lot more than I did. And I think many of us, we want to understand, you know, once you start to realize you don't know, then you want to try and understand more to maybe form an illusion that you will at some point understand this. And so my own search in chiropractic and healing and trying to understand why does one person get one result and why does another person, you know, why does their life look like that? And just wanting to understand more about my own healing journey and my own life and what was patterns that were showing up in my life. And so I think that was a huge part for me of starting to go within, was to look at my own cycles, like, oh, I keep putting myself in this situation, or isn't it funny that I, you know, have this trigger and it just keeps coming up and I respond to it the same way. And then I wonder why it keeps happening. And so my answer isn't an answer, but it is to realize that you hold the power of your own state. You don't hold power over pretty much anything else outside of yourself, but you do get to choose like where you're going to put your mindset, where you're going to put your energy. And so what I mean by that is, look back in this last 20 months, it's been a lot of chaos for a lot of people. And, you can feel it off people. Some people are white knuckling it and angry. Some people are full of fear. Some people are like, this has been awesome. My life changed so much. It's actually been my best, 20 months of my life. And the tone about them is different. That to me is the name of the game, is if you can actually be conscious about trying to choose your tone, especially when you're triggered, that's going to change your life. That's how you gain the ability to put some control back in your life, because if your internal state is where you want it to be, your external state is probably going to end up being a lot better than what it would have been if you let it dive off the deep end.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense
Totally
there, but
it does make sense. It does. And we can resonate with that 100%. You mentioned the word tone, and, each of us have our own different language around this intelligence.
Mhm.
That is us. We're partnered with something outside of ourselves and in and through ourselves that, what I love about the chiropractic philosophy, the spa of chiropractic, right? That understanding of how we operate, it's a life force. And no matter if we call it, the intelligence, we call it God, we call it innate, we call it, you say tone, energy state, frequencies, vibration,
yes,
many, all of these things, right? It doesn't matter the label. It simply is. It simply is. And so whenever you say the term tone, take us to that place where maybe you can guide us here to understand how to tap into that, or to start recognizing it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So think about when you're starting to recognize your own tone, think about things that really light you up. I love the name of the podcast, right? Like what lights up your life, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I love teaching. I love getting on stages and talking to people. I love doing it one-on-one. I love sharing what we're talking about today. That's something that lights me up. I also love snuggling my babies. So there's things that, if I could be doing these things, I know that my internal feeling is going to be in a good place, and my mindset is probably also in a good place. That electromagnetic aspect of my energy is vibrating in a place that is probably love or joy or peace, or at the bare minimum, neutral. And so that's a good place to be. So, we've all heard of, I think by now, a lot of us have heard of things like law of attraction. And what I didn't understand when I was first learning about it is I thought, I needed to be sitting here at my desk, writing some goals, focused on what I thought I wanted to create in my life. And that was law of attraction, like reading my goals and writing my goals.
Having a vision board, all that stuff, right?
And that stuff's great. And I still do all of that stuff. But what I think this is where it really like hit home for me is that, in chiropractic, especially if you go back to like the juicy beginning of our chiropractic, you learn that they were really, the D.D. Palmer, our original chiropractor, he was obsessed with the idea of magnetism and energy. And he was a magnetic healer before he had the idea of chiropractic. And so there's like this really rich history that we came from, like understanding that there's more to us than just our physical body. And that was before they even had terms like quantum physics and quantum theory and stuff. So the reason I say this is law of attraction to me became what I was learning in chiropractic, and I was learning as far as goal setting and law of attraction all of a sudden melded together. And I realized we are walking tuning forks or walking beacons, just by the nature of being a soul birthed into a physical body. And I think we haven't been taught that, so we don't realize that when I let myself get angry over, especially stuff that like is like, it doesn't matter, I'm just letting that trigger me, I set the stage for more of that like nature of reality to find me. So I'll give you an example. I shared this at the talk that you were at. And it's funny, but it's not funny. I had a bad morning, and it was like not anything major, but I was planning to do some self-care and go see a girlfriend. And I have a baby at home and a 6-year-old. And it was just one of those things that I had just let things slip. And so I was at the point where I was like, I really just needed some time to myself. and my daycare fell through for the day. And so I let it really piss me off. And so I'm in this negative mindset, and I know I'm in a negative mindset because I'm tuning in and I've done this for a long time.
You're telling that internal story, right?
Yes. I couldn't get myself out of it. And I let myself be there for a little bit. So I'm sitting in the bathtub with my baby, not in a happy state. And all of a sudden he poops in the bathtub. And I'm literally like, oh my God, I'm sitting in shit right now. Like, this is so literal right now of like,
Way literal.
yes. And he doesn't normally do that. And so that's the part where I laughed then, which changed my state. And I just realized, like, you got to let go of it. You know, like, do you want more shit in your bathtub metaphorically, or do you want to let go of the need to be angry, mad? You know, and that doesn't mean that we can't have those emotions. Sometimes those are a powerful place to be in, but most of us don't want that to be our dominant state forever. So you get to choose. And
we can have consciousness about our anger. I mean, we can choose our anger for a period of time, work it through, own it, and have it become a fuel that actually transforms us as opposed to one that, you know, just destroys us.
Totally. And so in my quest to try and understand more of my own healing and all of that, I was exposed to David Hawkins' work, which
I love him. I'm re-listening to his book right now. Like, he says the book. So I don't know if you have the audible of him speaking it. It's like, oh God, it's so awesome. Good. Go ahead. Talk about Dr. Hawkins. He's awesome.
Those books, that series of books, so Power versus Force, Truth versus Falsehood, etc., they like changed my life because it allowed me to take a lot of what I learned in religion as well as what I was learning in healing and kind of integrate the two. And my left brain really liked the fact that it was more organized.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's a lot of what we were just talking about is like, he, you know, was a psychiatrist that looked at the state that the person, dominant frequency or dominant vibrational state that the person's in, sets up their basically expectation and awareness and their experience of their life. And so we all are somewhere in a different pattern or field of frequency. And so, you know, when you look around at the people you know, surround yourself with, so you asked me the questions like, how do you start to pay attention to this? Like, maybe you're not used to looking within, but maybe it's easier to see what's happening in my outer world. That's a pretty good reflection of probably what's happening internally too. So,
and it can be very humbling, can't it?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and
like poop in a tub.
Parts of, yeah, exactly. There's parts of your life where you may be like, awesome, you know, you might be in a good state about it, you're doing great, and it shows. And then there might be a part of your life where it's like, yeah, this is where I have some work to do. And I think we all can probably resonate with that. Like, there's parts of your life where it, you know, it might be easier for you to be in the position that you want to be. And then you might be triggered in a different part of your life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've chosen to look at the triggers that I'm having in life. And instead of, because a previous version of myself would have looked externally and said, they're doing that to me, or life is doing that to me, or this is like an internal blame game. Right. And now I've shifted gracefully and gratefully so to a trigger is an area of awareness that has yet not had light shown on it. And so I find curiosity instead of pain there. And it has taken a new course of my own personal evolution.
Oh, that's beautiful. I agree. I think, you know, one of the things that has been my greatest teacher, and I just went and saw her last night, is my own mother has had a really rough 6 years. She's been in and out of nursing homes and mental hospitals and all sorts of things. And she's young, and now she's on hospice. And it's been like watching someone consciously choose to die. At least it feels that way, but not, you know, it's been 6 years. So to grieve someone that's not actually dead for 6 years has just been excruciating in some ways. And yet, if I had to sum up who's been my greatest teacher, it's probably her. And it has cracked open awareness for me on such a deeper scale of like human emotion, compassion, realizing I don't control anyone other than myself. And so I'm grateful. And I think that's where, you know, when you had talked about like God, energy, source, whatever you want to call it, the order and the intelligence that we see in our world, if we see it in the seeds of a sunflower, then it's true in all of our experiences as well. And so I'm so thankful that I have that faith and philosophy to apply it to these things that are really gut-wrenching too, because I do believe that there's organization and intelligence in that as well.
And I believe that's so wholeheartedly. And Jackie, her mother, suffered with dementia, and the pains of that progression within her own physical body. And we came to the understanding, and it's all theoretical, of life choices that would have led to that. Is it an actual disease or a culmination of poor nutrition, poor care, or even mentality that accumulates over time? We really don't know at this point. However, we had to come to a place of blessings of all of it. And I had this one epiphany. She and I and Jackie were outside in a garden at her nursing home, and she was admiring the flowers, and I was admiring her admiring the flowers. And so it's like this, like that house of mirrors, as when we grew up and we went to the fun place or the circus or whatever, and there was a house of mirrors, and it was just that vibratory nature of everything has a building block into eternity. And it was almost as though God or the universe were speaking through her words into me, saying, we all have this ability to see life and appreciate it no matter the circumstance around us. Right?
It's deep and so true.
I send blessings to you and your mom.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was also reminded when you were talking about your son and the poop moment in the tub. So as a young mom, my son's my firstborn. I have a daughter too. He's my firstborn. And I just recently wrote him on his 28th birthday in his birthday card, thank you for the initiation into momhood. I apologize for whatever needs apologies. And I think we were learning together. Thank you for your grace. And so I remember this time he was, I think, 4 years old. And I wasn't happy about something. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm in his little baby face and I'm yelling at him, into his little face. And he's looking at me intently, not upset. He's just looking at me with so much intensity. And he goes, Mom, you have one eye. And it was because I was so close to him, my eyes crossed into one eye and it broke me out of my whatever I was in, and it came back to the present moment. And I was like, oh God, I must look like a monster to this little kiddo. But he doesn't remember that moment at all right now. But what was really beautiful about it is his intelligence, his wisdom just simply reflected back to me. Your mom, you look like a cyclops right now.
Oh, definitely. There are teachers for sure,
Yeah.
It is one of those things where I think like I'm so grateful to have had kids when I had them, to at least have some of the awareness I had, to like not need to have all the answers for them, and to know that they're going to be my teachers. Now, do I still yell at my kids sometimes? Of course. And is there ungraceful moments? Yes. But I think about if I would have had them 10 years sooner, oh gosh. If you read the book, you'll know why I say, oh gosh.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And if it would have happened then, I'm sure it would have been what it was supposed to be too. But it's just, again, perspective changes on
completely. And so you title your book Reclamation. Help us understand the power of that word to you.
Yeah. Well, we kind of already touched on it, where I said, I think we are not taught the power that we all hold in this connection that's like there, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. But we can choose to not acknowledge it. And so for me, there was a pivotal point in my life where I woke up and I realized that the way I had been living was very much like outside in, or letting the world sway me to whatever was outside of me. And I didn't see how I was actively engaged in creating this like chaos. And it had to get to a point where, I think the universe has a sense of humor. And so if you're not paying attention, I think you generally get a bigger nudge to start to pay attention. And so as I woke up then I got to make some new changes. And so I call it reclamation because I think most of us need to go through a reclamation where we start to look within and reclaim our power, and then start to line ourselves up with this higher purpose of why we're here and how to live our life with that connection in our day to day.
Beautiful. I love that. And thank you for sharing your stories in your book, and then also your humbleness there. I termed it, and I don't know how this word came into my being in my early 30s. I was creating the vision board, like an annual process.
Mm-hmm.
And, going through magazines and cutting things out. And I'd done that for months. And so I just had a pile of words that were in a folder, an index folder, that were one day going to be a vision board.
Yeah.
And the words that fell together was my divine romance. And the divine romance wasn't with anyone. The divine romance was with the energies of the universe itself. And I started to see things as a dance and gave myself grace to step on toes, to not know the steps yet, yet to listen to the music and allow the music to guide. And I know you're a chiropractor, which is a beautiful profession. I want everyone, if there's one theme that people hear from my podcast here, is that please go investigate true chiropractic, is that there is this life force, this dance that is with us. And so whenever you're in relationship with your practice members and with your patients, take us to that place of what you embody in your practice.
Sure. I think where I've come to at this point is I just try and kind of clear myself out of the equation. So I recognize my job isn't to do anything to them or take something away or add something in. It's to try and just hold space, because I do truly believe that we are all our best healers. We are all our best doctors, and we all hold the answers for ourselves. Now, with that said, those of us that maybe have had more experience in this field of helping people do that can sometimes put nudges in the right places, do the adjustments in the right areas to make certain to help certain things connect or let go of. But it's really not my job to do the healing. My job is to hold the space so that you can come in and connect back to yourself. And so what I love about that is it's really allowed us to have a place where anyone can come in. We're very open to wherever you're at in your own journey on things, and whoever you believe yourself to be is fine with us. And what I like about it too is we're all working on healing ourselves. And so what I've noticed in like my 12 years in practice is like the patients I saw early on, and some of them are still here, 12 years later, but the conversations I could have had then are so different than the conversations I could have now, because I'm different than then. And my adjustment, though physically may look very similar in to where what I was doing 12 or 11 years ago, the grid that the practice holds, or the energy in the practice, different. And I think that contributes to why people show up here, what they get from their experience here, who works with me on the team. It's not just me. Yeah. And I'm excited because I do feel like there is this massive renaissance happening of people wanting holistic care, knowing that their physical body is not separate from their mental and emotional and other aspects of themselves. And so I just am excited to be a chiropractor right now, because I feel like some of us have been sitting here like waiting, watching, like, come on, we want you all to get it, and
the power of persistence, right?
Yes, there's like a new tidal wave, I think, of people who are looking for us. They maybe didn't know it was called chiropractic. But yeah.
Yeah. And where can they find you? Where is your practice in Wisconsin?
Yep. So I practice in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. It's called Cook Chiropractic. And then we also have a sister practice in Cadott, Wisconsin. So it's about 20 minutes from here. And additionally, we also have a offsite practice that operates in the school district. So we're actually doing a case series with a lot of kids that, for whatever reason, have challenges at school. And so divine appointments. We have started this thing about 5 or 6 years ago with our school district to bring chiropractic into the public schools and just right people at the right time, opening doors. So that's been really cool because one of the main researchers in chiropractic is now helping us put together a big case series on what we've done. So we have a lot of fun things happening. And I think it is just, to me, it just backs up what, if I know that I can work on myself internally, then it doesn't surprise me when these wonderful opportunities show up, because we've, readied ourselves on the inside first, and then we want to serve our mission on the outside.
Yeah. I read a book many years ago and still have it here on my shelf. And it's by an author named Genevieve Berend. And she studied with a philosopher, older than her, Thomas Troward. And one of the quotes inside her book says, excitement is the absence of faith. And I remember whenever I read that, I was like, what? I was like, I want to be excited about certain things. But then I dived deeper into it. And it was like a marriage with the universe saying, if you've positioned yourself in the right place, the right frequency tone, as we're speaking of today, and you have the right intent, and it aligns with the purpose that the universe has in store for you and at that timing, then there would be no excitement. It simply is. It's like we could get excited about the sun rising or the moon rising, right? But we become faithful to it. Mm-hmm. And so she was saying that excitement is the absence of faith. And what I'm hearing in this beautiful alignment of your work with the schools and all the people that have been orchestrative in making that happen is that it is that timing. It is that energy. It is that tone, the very thing that we're speaking of. And I feel it too. The Renaissance. What a beautiful word. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful word of the Renaissance of humanity and its intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I try and speak life into what I want to see. And so in the midst of all the chaos these last months, I just think so many things need to change, and we can feel that there is change happening. And so what makes me feel better is to say, what did we think it was going to feel like to go through this change into something better, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're witnessing. And so that's where I do think those of us that can see that there's new possibilities on the horizons, like speak life into those things and hold your state, focus on those things, because I really think there is science behind that actually is part of how our world forms. So fascinating. It's so different than what, again, I was caused to believe early on. I didn't ever get exposed to any of that until later on.
Mm-hmm. Joyous, isn't it? It's
mm-hmm.
so
it's exciting.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's I'm grateful.
So interesting to me what you said from the book, because I think it's like we're using words, right, to try and convey an idea. And depending on what excitement means to you, I can totally see how that could be, where sometimes I think when you're elated over something, what happens shortly thereafter is almost like a depression from it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's so much to think about when you're trying to understand like how everything's interwoven. Mm-hmm.
And the energy of thought itself, mm-hmm. right? We're a beautiful species, and we're coming into our own just a little bit more. Thank you for being a beautiful light in our world. Thank you for following the calling of chiropractic, and for serving your patients and the world in this way. And really, we're going to touch back on how this work with the school districts is going. What would you love us to do, and how do we stay connected? We know that we're going to go pick up your book. I'm assuming it's on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So Reclamation, the evolution of a hot mess, of course. We all need this on our shelf. We probably know about 10 people right now that could also use it on their shelf. And so how else do we follow you, Dr. Lona?
Sure. Well, I'm on social media platforms, so Facebook or Instagram. And then my website is just my name. So Dr. Lona Cook,
Mhm.
and you can connect with me in any way you want. So if you're a chiropractor, I have some books that I wrote in the chiropractic space. Reclamation was kind of like my first evolution into, I'm talking to anyone who wants to listen. So yeah, I'd love it if you read the book and it makes a difference. I'd love to hear about it.
Awesome. So it's Lona Cook, LonaCook. So we have our spelling down. Thank you for sharing your light with us, and we wish you the best and can't wait to stay tuned to your journey.
Thanks so much, Tina. So
Being a
fun.
beautiful soul. Thank you so much.